the organized community can create the change that is needed in this nation. Welcome, Isaac Giron!
Still sag too hard. Alright, first I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you to Troy for inviting me. And it's a great honor for me to be here. But not only that, right? I think it's about damn time that I'm up here. I think it's about time that we start realizing that our movements aren't separate. And I think it's damn time that some people allow a militant brown man to be able to stand up on a podium again. And I know that everything I'm going to talk about, you already know. We already know everything that we need to know in order for us to achieve what we have to achieve. But I think it's important sometimes for somebody to say it. We in the Brown Berets, we carry a legacy that was passed on to us by Brown Berets and Black Panthers in the 1960s and 70s. And we carry that proudly. And like most of those things that happened in those eras, we only get some of what happened. We only get some of the ideas that come across, right? And there are some parts of those movements that the powers that be don't allow us to remember, right? History has been written by the same busters that wrote Proposition 8 and are the same kind of animal that are the pigs that wrote Senate Bill 81. These same people who fight to deny the human rights of others will try to place the Chicano liberation movement, they'll try to place the Black Power movement, the women's rights movement, the queer liberation movement, the American Indian movements. They'll try to place all these different movements in separate categories. They're not. They're liberation movements, they're freedom movements, they're movements toward equality. I want to give you a little history or a little clue of what it is, some of the ideas that we think about. The first point in our program for the Brown Berets is we want freedom, which means that we as a people, right, regardless, we as a people have the right to fully and unconditionally determine our own destinies in however we see fit. This point for us makes it our duty to stand firm and squarely on the side of any oppressed group, which means we are as much a queer rights organization as we are a Chicano immigrant rights organization. Because we understand that if we allow the exploitation of one group, the denial of the rights of one group, we are allowing the rape of our own. So thank you. All right. So part of what the introduction was, advocate of people's power, right? See, we have to remind ourselves what it's going to take to reach the desired outcome of what we're doing. See, our goal is equality. Our goal is respect. A respect of our individual rights and our rights as a collective, as a group of people, to live so that we can live in dignity and with pride, right? But in order to achieve this, we have to fight for it, right? We haven't been fighting for decades. We've been pleading, we've been begging, we've been humiliating ourselves. We have been letting blow after blow keep raining down on our rights, our civil rights, for decades. And these days that have passed, right? Those days, I should say, those days of submissive activism have to stop. So many of the leaders in our community get stuck doing the same exact thing, doing the same exact actions to try to achieve the goal that we're searching for. Sometimes these don't work. We have to evolve. We have to change. We have to allow a new wave of militancy to flow through our movements so that we can change, so that we can start creating new ways of creating the change that we want. We can't sit here and do the same thing, right? And we have to engage our community when it comes to that. We have to make sure that people on the block, people in the neighborhoods, people in the suburbs, people in the hoods, in the ghettos, everyone is involved in what we want to do. Because the change that has to happen will not happen from the people that have been legislating our rights away, right? So that means that the power has to come from somewhere else. The power structure will not change itself unless it is forced to. And even if we have a couple of good allies in government, if they have nobody to rest upon, nobody to give them strength on the streets, they won't be able to do a damn thing. So that's what we have to do. This movement has to come from the people, from people being fed up of living the way that we do. It has to come from people having the courage to stand up for what they believe in. It has to it has to come from people that are not afraid to speak their minds and to say what we have to say. Of not being afraid to put yourself out there. So what we need to do, I think, is create more community programs that engage the community, that get us out there talking to people, talking to everyday people, and making sure that they can come out in their own self-interest, in their own self-defense, and give the people the courage to seize the time. For however much as things have gotten better in the last 40 years, so many things still remain the same. So we need to stand up for each other and fight against our common oppressors. Our struggle for liberation we need to make sure that things like this happen all the time. That we don't just sit here and, make this happen once a year, right? We need to make sure that we're constantly out there getting involved, getting our ideas out there, getting people engaged. And not only for the queer rights movement, the Latino movement, the Chicano movement, the immigration rights movement, all these movements together have to start doing this, right? We can't settle for one day a year. We can't settle for one weekend a year. We can't settle for Cinco de Mayo once a year. We have to start creating these kinds of movements all the time to create pressure on the government in order for them to understand what it is that we want them to do. And if they don't listen, then we're going to have to figure something else out. All right? So I want to end by saying all power to the people. Thank you.